Hi, welcome to our next episode of Episcopal City Missions Sounds of Solidarity, where we speak to leaders, ECM grantees, folks from philanthropy, folks from the community who are interested in integrating spirituality, healing, and movement building. And so thanks for coming back and listening. And we have a wonderful guest today, a very good friend of mine, Aditi Dholakia, who has done social justice work broadly in Massachusetts, has done a more focused amount of work in philanthropy that she can tell you about momentarily, and is going to share a little bit of her story, and then also a little bit around the intersection of spirituality in her work. Aditi, welcome.
Thanks, Dan. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much for being here. Deeply appreciate you spending time with us this morning. And yeah, if you could just sort of introduce yourself however you'd like and share a little bit about your justice work in Massachusetts, your travels in philanthropy. Just help us get to know you a little bit however you would like.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. So my name is Aditi. I use they and she pronouns interchangeably. And I am currently the Senior Director of Program and Strategy at the Boston Women's Fund, which is a sort of greater Boston area nonprofit philanthropic intermediary organization. We kind of sit at the intersection of resource allocation, but also we are also a grant seeker, so we kind of straddle that line. And then I also have the absolute privilege of supporting some specific work around the solidarity economy and its connection to philanthropy at the Center for Economic Democracy, which is another space that I get to work with Dan in, which is very exciting. And Dan was very generous to say that I've done social justice work in Massachusetts. Most of my work's been really focused in sort of Eastern Mass, or even, the greater Boston area and surrounding gateway cities, I would say. But, I'm not originally from here. I'm originally from North Carolina, and I moved here about 5 years ago, and it has been just an absolute gift to be so integrated into the communities during my time here and through my work. And it's through connections with people like, Dan and Neha at ECM and some of our peers across other philanthropic institutions, but of course also the grassroots organizations that we all work together with, to kind of learn about this landscape and to better understand sort of what are the unique needs and opportunities in this area. So that's been really interesting and fun for me. And honestly, just what brings me to justice work is a deep belief in our collective humanity, a deep belief in our collective care for one another, our collective dignity, our collective right to not just exist on this planet, but like to thrive and to build beautiful things, and to each of us reach out and hold hands with one another. And yeah, it's hard to articulate just how deeply important it is to me that we are able to or need to, I guess, come back to what it is at our core that connects us together, which is that we're all just human beings with hopes and dreams and wishes that wanna build a beautiful life on this planet and in these places. And there are so many beautiful, vibrant communities in Boston that have just experienced so many horrific things at the hands of the systems um, of oppression, and what little we can do to mitigate that harm, to start to undo it, and to start to really push the systems in a way that ultimately, hopefully, arrives at some kind of new world. The more we can do that, the better. So I've been rambling. I'll stop there.
Not rambling at all. Thank you for that. And even more so, thank you for your work. I can't believe it's only been 5 years. I always forget that when we chat, because you just
I
seem like,
know.
yeah, you just seem like so deeply integrated into these communities, and of such deep service to them. So I also know, beyond kind of your general vision and your general work for social justice, which has been wonderful, you have this particular lens or piece of work that is really spirit filled and really soul filled. I know you're a Reiki practitioner, and I even had the opportunity to engage with some Reiki practice with you at our Movement Funders group retreat, which was really beautiful. As my first opportunity to do Reiki. I really appreciated that. And I just know from being around you in a variety of contexts, sort of your desire and sort of bringing spirit and healing into the center of what you do. So yeah, for our second and final question, share more about that. Why do you think movements ought to be more infused with spirituality and healing, or whatever language you would use? What's your vision for that broadly, and maybe even a little bit in philanthropy, which is sort of how we're most connected these days? Yeah, really anything on that topic would be super interesting to me.
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, I'm a Reiki master and a yoga teacher, or yoga practitioner, I should say. I prefer to say that I more guide practices than I teach, as it were, but yeah, I just, I first of all, I'm South Asian, and I grew up in a family that always had more of an eye towards spirituality than we did religion, as it were. So there was a lot of just connection to the place that we came from, the higher powers that are in this space, and a deep, deep respect for, living beings and again, humanity and our shared dignity and things like that. So that's sort of what has guided me and how I was raised. And interestingly, the bulk of my work in the greater Boston area has been focused around capacity building, which, as a caveat, I will say I really hate that term. However, it's the language that's available to us to talk about what it is that's also most widely accessible. And so capacity building, for folks who don't know, is essentially just uh, to say it very simply, tools to support organizations to more effectively deliver their programs and navigate what we know as the nonprofit industrial complex. And that's been my approach, is to really think about, like, how are we just strengthening organizations, strengthening the infrastructure of the social sector in order for this work to be carried out more effectively and to reach, more people, whatever that looks like, and success being defined by the people who are doing the work and impacted by the work. The reason I name that is because one thing that I have seen as distinctly lacking in the capacity building sort of like part of the ecosystem is an eye toward the capacity of us as humans, as people. And so much of the capacity building is geared towards, well, how do you build a better budget, or how do you fundraise, or how do you, make payroll, or figure that out, or, do your strategic plan. And never is it talked about, well, what is the capacity of a human being to endure in this work? The Aini Institute, which we both love, talks about endurance. And it's something that really sticks with me, as like, our people are tired, our people are burning out. And it's not just burnout in the corporate sense, it's like genuine, like, exhaustion in our bones, because we're not just carrying the weight of what's happening now, we're carrying generations of trauma and ongoing oppression. And that exhaustion, it doesn't have anywhere to go. And so our people burn out, and then, understandably, they leave the movement, and the movement needs to train more people, and it becomes a cyclical thing. And I just think, if we were to, with the intention of really building strong, holistic, supportive infrastructure, if we were to integrate healing and spirituality into what we know as supporting, right now our movements are largely within nonprofits because that's the most accessible vehicle. So within that space, if we're able to integrate healing and spirituality for our leaders and for our communities in a meaningful way, I feel like that in itself will then lead to a healthier, more enduring sector, to where we can, my hope is that we can actually, continue to, and with greater success, move these social change efforts forward. So that's sort of the big thing for me, and to do it, on the Wisdom Council at ECM is such a gift, and to work with you, Dan and Neha, and all the other folks in the community, and to learn from you all, because I think the other thing is, we've lost sight of how to collaborate and be uncomfortable with one another, and to understand compromise and different perspectives. And by we, I mean the like greater we, not we as in you and me. But it's such a beautiful opportunity to get back to that in these spaces that you're cultivating, for which I'm really grateful.
Well, I'm very grateful to you, Aditi, for our friendship and for your wisdom here right now and in general. And I resonate with so much of what you expressed, and really look forward to continuing to being on this journey with you, both specifically in the context of our Finding Our Way Home Wisdom Council, and then more broadly. Wonderful. Thank you, Aditi. Thank you all for listening to Sounds of Solidarity, and just for being in this journey with Episcopal City Mission, with all of us that are looking for ways to make our movement stronger, and believe that bringing spirit, bringing healing into our movements is a way to do that. So thank you, everyone.